Saucy Not Bossy.
Hi, welcome to Saucy Not Bossy. I am your host, Shanna Ferrigno, and today we have one of the most incredible, sauciest, brilliant, just the most amazing women that I know, and I am giddy to have her on, Dawn Cutillo. Dawn is the author of The Hormone Shift. If you haven't heard about this book, run after this episode. I know you're going to want to grab this book. It is so incredible. It talks about anti-aging, hormone health, sexuality. It's amazing. And she is the founder of BeBalanced Natural Hormone. And there's centers all over for weight loss. And that's how Dawn and I have connected with one another. And we'll get into that later. But she's been a pioneer in the health and wellness space for over 3 decades. And Dawn, welcome to Saucy Not Bossy.
I am so excited, Shona, to be here. This is awesome. I love you. I think this whole podcast idea, I'll try not to be bossy at all. I got
to start off by saying something. It makes me emotional because you are so amazing. And you are such a powerhouse. And when I first met you, I was nervous. I was like, you've done so much with your life. You've just changed thousands of people, especially women's lives. And I was like, is she just going to be a bitch? Is she going to be bossing me around? And you just came out and you just come from the heart, and we're Italian. And I watched the way people their lives change with you. And that is why I'm so excited to talk to you. So no, you're never bossed.
That is great. So now I have to live up to this, and I got to make sure I'm gonna do that. But yeah, I just feel like I'm just a regular person, right? But the thing is, here's what I think. And you have children, so many women listening probably have children. There's probably some younger girls, but even older women have children, grandchildren. And I feel like I have an easier job because running a couple businesses, I'm sorry, but I think that's easier than having a child 20. So my gift back to them is I better accomplish something. I got into this. I wanted to do something to help women that I believe are doing the hardest and the most important. I got to watch when I say that, but I believe it's one of the most important jobs, creating other human beings. But again, if your road is just business women need help, and we work hard too. But moms and grandmoms, you guys have all that work and you put all that love. And I'm here to give back to you and to help balance your hormones so that you can live a good life and be good to your spouse, to your kids, to your grandkids, and all that. So that's why I'm excited. And I feel like you guys are doing the hardest job, and I want to make it a little easier if possible.
You have. I want to tell our audience through how we know each other is because I had my twins, and I've been in the health and fitness space my whole life, and my hormones were everywhere. My husband I was driving him crazy. I was depressed. I was tired. I was sad, and I couldn't lose weight. And I made it a lot about the weight, right? And I was starving myself. I was just working out nonstop. And so finally I found BeBalanced, and I just started your program, and I lost 25 pounds in total in the first month. And then I lost 48 in total. Because there's 5 phases of the program, in phase 4 and 5, but the way I felt and my hormones. And that's what I want to talk about with you, because I'm in my 40s now, and I don't think I can go. It used to be faux pas, but I can't go to a winery. I can't go to the grocery store without somebody talking about menopause, women's hormones. Like, what are they? Everyone's confused. A lot of people, especially me, I had a male doctor that did my blood work and said, oh, you're fine. You're just older. You're off to Valhalla. You're never going to lose the weight. And you're just going to, just be a bitch for the rest. And I'm like, no. So when I found BeBalanced and I read your book, I was like, oh my gosh, we need to talk about women's health and hormones with Dawn. So Dawn, my question for you is, what is one of the biggest myths when it comes to women's hormones and health?
I think the biggest myth is that we are going to have to be controlled by our hormones. And oh boy, when you get your period, that's going to be a nightmare. And then once you get pregnant, and then you're going to feel terrible. And then afterwards, oh my goodness, good luck with that. You're not going to sleep. And then when you get to menopause, you're going to gain weight. And it's just, we're told things that are common. They are common. We know that PMS is common. Menopausal symptoms are common. but they don't have to be normal. That's not how it should be. And we can get into this a little more. It's stress on many levels, psychological, physiological, mental, emotional, all those types of things that throw our hormones out of balance. And a lot of it's because we live in a modern, crazy world. It's a little less over in Europe. And, if we were in Italy, eating pasta, it's just totally different over there. The pace, the preservatives, everything's different. So I think the biggest myth is that we have to be controlled by our hormones, that we have to be bitchy certain times of the month, that we have to have postpartum depression, that our life is over and we're all dried up when we're over 50. And that is not true. I mean, I hope at least I am living proof of that. I mean, I just turned 58 and I'm in like the best shape of my life.
Oh, guys,
And
for anyone listening, sorry to interrupt, but oh my gosh, I'll put a photo of Dawn and links to her. But yeah, wow, you are amazing.
It's just, and then we can get into this later too, but it affects your gut. And I started doing more with gut health because that affects the hormones. So everything together, I mean, you can have a flat stomach and even a smaller waist. Like I said, I'm in better shape now than I was when I was younger. And I love that. I love that the human body is amazing and hormones are just the notes and the music that dance within it. So again, if we can get them balanced, be balanced, right? If we can get those balanced, a woman can have I always say, if you can harness your hormones, you can have the ride of your life. I love horses, so I think of that, right?
Love that.
Harness them, control them, and it can actually be better than you thought. Not just, well, it's not bad, it's mundane. No, let's take it to the next level. So I think that's a huge myth, and I think my mission in the book and Be Balanced all dispels that. And that's hopefully we can get into some of that today.
I love that. Okay. So let's talk menopause. Let's talk hormones. Where do we even start? Because where do we start? Tell me where we start.
I would say is, because I kind of touched on it, why are our hormones more messed up today than years ago, and maybe more messed up here than, like I said, I made a joke about Europe because they have less, their pace is slower and they have less preservatives. And what are preservatives? They're stressful on the body, the physiological part of us, right? Over exercising is stressful. Our cell phones are stressful on us physiologically. All this stuff is in a modern world. But then psychologically, there's a lot of depression, anxiety, and other. Psychologically, we have a lot of stress because I can't keep up with the Joneses, or my husband just lost his job, or I'm trying to get to that next level and I'm raising kids and running a business. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And like I said, that is keep up with the Joneses. So in America, we have a much faster pace. So there's a lot of physiological stress, crap in our water, preservatives in our food, and just all that we have going for us. And then there's the mental, emotional stress of, I'm having problems with my husband. I don't have enough money. My kids are doing that. So all of that comes together, and that is what causes imbalances in our hormones. That's what we can somewhat control. Not all of it, I get it. But if we understand it, right? So I said, like, you have this variable here. And if you can understand it, we can manage it a little bit. And therefore, we can lower your stress. And then the hormones can become balanced. And we can talk a little bit more in depth. But does that make sense? Like, that's where the hope is. We don't have to be doomed.
Absolutely.
So if you want, why don't I do this? Okay, go ahead. I was going to say, I can go a little bit more into that, because a lot of times, I shouldn't say a lot of times, but there are times where I'll see women, they'll say, oh, I don't have any stress. We're good financially. And me and my husband, we have a good marriage and my kids are perfect. I'm like, all right, well, I don't see too many of them, but I'm like, okay, but you still have a cell phone. You still have EMFs from the computer. You still have artificial light coming down on you. But I also say this, and this I'll just skim on that. We can talk about this more later. But do you have perfect self-esteem? Did you have any trauma in your childhood? Did you have anything going on in your life? Do you understand? So these deep, dark thoughts, let's say I had a big nose and I was always teased. Well, as an adult, I accept but do I really? Or am I always afraid I'm going to be teased for my nose? Or maybe, God forbid, I was molested as a child or something really bad happened to me. Have I really cleared up? That's low-level trauma that really affects our hormones. So again, when someone says to me they have no stress, and it's very hard to believe, because unless they're literally have been enlightened, their life is perfect, they're going to have some psychological stress. So there's all type of stress. Now, what does stress do? And we'll keep this pretty simple today. Most people have heard of the hormone cortisol, right? I mean, your clients, you know it now, but people have heard of cortisol. Cortisol is not bad. It's there to buffer us from stress, but it's raised when we're under stress. So it could be I'm upset about something in my head, a problem. I had an argument with my husband. I don't have enough money. Or it could just be I'm using my cell phone all day. I ate a bunch of crappy food, and then the body is stressed. But there's always something going on with stress. So the body has to raise cortisol to kind of buffer us from that stress. So cortisol's not bad. It's the stress that's bad. So cortisol buffers us, no problem. But the problem is when we're under chronic stress, right? We never take a break. We're constantly eating junk food. We're always on our cell phone. that's when the body's like, hey, this lady is crazy. I can't keep up with her cortisol demand, right? And we all know people like that. I can be like that at times. So I can't keep up with this demand of cortisol. I don't have enough to make. I can't make it quick enough. Then the body takes a hormone called progesterone that you really don't hear much about. I mean, we know it be balanced, but you don't hear much about it. It takes progesterone and it can convert it to cortisol. Thank goodness, because cortisol we need to live. So over time, the body's like, no problem. I'll just take your progesterone. I'll take it over here and make cortisol so that you can live. And that's the most important thing, right? Survival. But the problem is then our progesterone levels get very low. And I'll just finish this in a minute here, but it gets very low in conjunction to our estrogen. We need estrogen, and we all heard of estrogen. We know we need that to develop our breast, to have a baby, to pop an egg. We know that, but we don't hear about progesterone. So we need those two to be balanced. If they're not balanced, huge problem. All the PMS comes from that. Postpartum comes from that. And then perimenopause and menopause symptoms come from the imbalance. Now, what's the deal? Progesterone is literally your best friend. Why are we not talking about this more? I don't know. Progesterone is a fat burner. Okay, better than GLP-1s. Fat burner, it's a diuretic, helps get rid of fluid, breast tenderness, migraines, all that. It helps you sleep, calms anxiety, and the opposite of anxiety is depression. So it's going to help depression and anxiety. Again, you're sleeping better, and it helps overgrowth of tissue to not happen. So we don't get heavy periods, fibroids, endometriosis, God forbid, breast cancer. So all of that stuff. Why don't we want more progesterone? It also, the foundation is it stabilizes blood sugar. That's where I have less cravings, less hunger, less fat production. Okay. So that's progesterone. Now, if it's out of balance and it's low, then you're dominant in estrogen. Now, estrogen, I just said, so good. We need estrogen. We know that. But out of balance, the exact opposite of progesterone. Causes you to gain weight, hold on to fluid, be ravenously hungry, have cravings. I can't sleep. I have anxiety and depression. I'm overgrowing tissue. I have heavy periods. I could get endometriosis, fibroids, cancer. That's why ER positive cancer is the most common type. So does that make sense, Shanna? Like that imbalance is what causes all of that. And if we didn't have is there a chance that we can balance? Yes. And then all that stuff literally goes away. Have you not seen that with your clients at BeBalanced when they balance their hormones?
Oh, you have no idea. Yeah, and I've learned so much. When I started BeBalanced and I did the progesterone, I went to a doctor beforehand, and I have certain friends and people out there listening. What I don't understand is, why did my doctor try to give me estrogen? And I don't understand when doctors say, right, or clients will come to me and say, well, I have no estrogen. And I'm like, that's not possible, right? Like, why are we not talking more about it? And then I want to get to everything you're saying about progesterone, but I want to also touch the topic of HRT and how we work at BeBalanced differently with progesterone. So if somebody says right now, okay, Dawn, that sounds amazing. Where do I get this? Do I go to my doctor? And why not go to your doctor HRT, and why do naturally with BeBalanced?
So what we'll get into in a little bit is how do we balance the hormones? And what my methodology is gently getting cortisol down, getting your stress response a little more calm. And that's some lifestyle things and some supplements. And then let's gently bring up progesterone. And then we balance the two. That's called natural hormone balancing. It's not hormone replacement. Okay. Hormone replacement, bioidentical hormone replacement, is much better than synthetic hormone replacement. So not too many people are doing standard HRT anymore. Well, let's talk about bioidentical hormone replacement. Suzanne Summers, God rest her soul, but she was very into bioidentical. So that's where they will take, they'll test you, and that's good. And they'll say, oh, let's say you're 55, you're older, a little bit older woman, and they'll test you and they'll say, oh, Mrs. Smith, you are low in estrogen. We see in the saliva, it's low. Okay. You're low in progesterone, which is obvious. And then you are also a little maybe low in testosterone. Now, they don't ask her what her lifestyle, what she eats, whatever. They don't ask her anything about cortisol. Could that be high? Your lifestyle? Or they don't really test that. And also, is your blood sugar off? Is your insulin high? So those are the two things with BeBalanced. We cover them with lifestyle changes. We can't have your blood sugar all over the place and you won't feel good. And we can't have your cortisol really high or you're going to mess up your hormones. So we figure those out, give you some lifestyle tips, and then we gently bring up progesterone. It balances with estrogen. What they do is they just go right in, test your hormones, which is good. I don't mind that. They see that you're low and then they say, Mrs. Smith, you're 55, you're low in all three. We're just going to give you all three. And you're like, all right, well, that makes sense. And the hormones are more bioidentical. It's not like horse urine that they used in synthetic equine, urine. It's not that. It's more natural hormone. So it's got to be better. The problem is they don't do anything for your high insulin and cortisol. So when they give you that little bit of progesterone that we talked about is so important, it gets converted right over to make cortisol. And so your
Oh.
progesterone doesn't really get up to what I said. We need to balance it with estrogen. And then they're giving you more estrogen and testosterone. And if we just balance them out, which I'll talk about in a minute, how we can do it without giving estrogen. So the woman ends up being more dominant in estrogen, testosterone, and her progesterone can never really get up there. And so she doesn't solve all the things I just talked about, your sleep, your mood, your this, your weight. Now, what I will say, because I'm always very honest, women taking bioidentical hormone replacement therapy do seem to get help with hot flashes and night sweats, and then anything like a little bit libido and vaginal dryness. I'm going to be honest. I see that. But guess what? The problem is because they're estrogen dominant now, they're eating more, they're retaining fluid, they're in a worse mood, they're not sleeping, they're gaining weight. Who wants to take off your clothes for your new libido when you just gained 20 pounds? You write to your husband's like, well, that's great. I'm glad you're slim and I can't, you don't want to do anything now. So, like, what if you can solve all these problems that we just talked about, the myriad of problems, in just one natural method? And that's what we do, because you got to remember with hormone replacement therapy, even bioidentical, there is those risks there. There's people that promoted it that got breast cancer. I mean, there's just those risks of jacking the estrogen up too much. And estrogen is stimulatory. So let me say this. I always make the joke, estrogen is like the teenager, okay? The teenager's running around creating havoc. So if I said to you, oh, Shauna, do you have like some teenage kids? Why don't we just let all your teenagers, 15, 16-year-old girls and boys, go stay at a beach house for the weekend by themselves? Let's just let them do that. You'd be like, what? I said, the house is going to get burnt down. Someone's going to get pregnant. Someone's taking drugs, right? It's not a good idea. But if I said, well, why don't we take one 26-year-old man or woman that's in the house with them? Won't that be okay? And you're like, yeah, that may be better. So that's what progesterone is. It's the chaperone. It's the guardian. So one progesterone molecule is all that's needed for like 5 or 6 estrogens. So one parent is all that's needed for 5 or 6 teenagers, because teenagers aren't bad. So what if we said, oh, you know what? We're sick of teen pregnancy. We're sick of teen drug use. Why don't we kill all the teenagers in the United States? Some people are like, yeah, I like that idea. I like this girl. No, that's, first of all, it's illegal, but it's not really good. It's not really a good solution. Some parents are like, I would do that, but it's not really good, but it would work. So that's what sometimes they do with cancers and breast cancer. They'll kill all the estrogen instead of bringing in progesterone, right? So that's where that's where estrogen gets too bad of a name, when it's not bad if you balance it out. Now, why do they give it just to regular women? So if you go and you're like, I'm having some issues with not PMS, I'm sorry, menopause, they'll go ahead and say, well, let's give you estrogen. Now, at least with bioidentical doctors, they're testing everything and they're giving you a little bit of each, right? Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, but it still doesn't work as well. It only works for those couple of symptoms, and then there's the side effects. Whereas if you just go to a regular doctor, maybe you're a little older and you say, oh, I'm having, vaginal dryness and headaches, and I'm having some other things with menopause, they'll give you estrogen. You're like, why? That's ridiculous. Because a lot of times they'll know from studies and even lab results that women are a little low in estrogen when they get to menopause. But here's why. When progesterone goes so low, estrogen in the body down regulates it lower. So you won't find it in the urine, in the blood, in the saliva when you test for it. Now you say, well, what do you mean you won't find? Where is it? Is it hiding? Yes, it is hiding in your tissues. It's hiding in the tissues, because the body's like, I don't want this estrogen. I don't want these teenagers running around in her bloodstream, lighting fires and taking drugs and causing her to go crazy, right? Because there's no parent there. But here's what we found with BeBalanced, and we have our own chemist and we've done lab testing. When you bring in progesterone, if I give this older woman who's low in estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, a little bit of progesterone, the body's like, cool, there's a chaperone in the bloodstream now, a parent, we can release some estrogen, and the tissues can make estrogen into your knees. Why would you ever take something your body can make? It's like if your mom could cook good Italian food in the kitchen and you keep bringing in pizza. And she's like, well, wait, I can make, what are you spending money? And you're insulting me. This is my food. I can make better pizza and better. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they give it because they didn't learn about hormones, and they don't learn a lot about nutrition. Regular doctors. I'm not saying that there's not doctors that are way involved beyond that. Functional medicine, doctors that specialize in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, they know more. But your average, MD that you go to, family practitioner, they don't study it. So young girls, I don't know, here, get on the pill. Just if that'll help your symptoms. I don't know what's going on there. Even OBGYNs will do that for you. They don't know what else to do. Older women, they'll tend to say, they should refer them out to an endocrinologist, but they'll tend to say, all right, well, why don't we give you some estrogen? And so they give the estrogen because estrogen does go lower in menopause. Estrogen drops like 20%. I'm giving real rough numbers. Progesterone drops like 80%. So which one do you think should be fixed first? And which one do you think is related to your symptoms? So with BeBalanced, our methodology, we've seen it on lab tests. We'll give a woman a little bit of progesterone, natural. We'll also give her some things for like herbs and things. I won't get into all that on that to help the adrenal gland, lower the cortisol. And all of a sudden, in the saliva test, her progesterone comes up, and all of a sudden there's estrogen there. Well, where did that? We didn't give her any estrogen because the body released it. So does that make sense? You don't need to do it. I think doctors just don't understand that. Have you seen people been taking estrogen? Like you're saying, doctors will just give them estrogen when they go to the doctor.
Yeah, they're fighting me saying they don't need the progesterone. And I'm like, okay, well, then you can leave because if you want to fight this, they want to fight. And then they're still having the hot flashes. And I don't understand why people are not understanding progesterone. So I'm so happy you're explaining
Yeah,
all
because
of
the doctors don't really learn. Progesterone is progestation. That's where the name came from. So what they say is progesterone holds the baby. That's why you will see, this is the one time you might see a doctor or a fertility specialist give real progesterone, because the pill has synthetic progesterone. We could talk about the difference, but they'll give real progesterone because it'll hold a pregnancy. So let's say I've had a couple miscarriages, which I shouldn't really have to have a couple before the doctor figures it out, but this is sometimes what happens. He'll say, okay, well, let's give you micronized progesterone in a pill. And they'll take that, and that'll, for the first 12 weeks, it'll hold on to the baby. And that's where you can avoid, that's not the only reason for miscarriages, but it's one of the reasons. So they'll give that. So they will do that. But they think of progesterone is only for progestation. You don't need progesterone if you don't have a uterus. So let's say you've had a hysterectomy. This is what they'll say. You had a hysterectomy, and now, probably because your hormones are imbalanced, you had all these problems. So we took that out, and now we're going to just give you estrogen, because you're not going to get cancer because you don't even have a uterus anymore. There's no way you can get uterus or maybe even cervical cancer if the cervix is taken. You won't get that, they say. So that's why they just give you the estrogen, thinking that progesterone does only keeping the pregnancy and keeping you from getting endometrial cancer. Progesterone has a million tasks. We just said stabilizes blood sugar, calms you, helps your sleep, helps your appetite, helps fat burning. So that's where they just don't know it. And so I will say this: if a woman is already dominant in estrogen and then you give her more, you're like, well, that's crazy. But you know what? I've seen it work. Not as weight gain, fluid retention, side effects, but it'll work to stop her hot flashes temporarily, because you're giving the body so much more estrogen that the receptor site burns out, and it gives the feeling of no estrogen. So it's almost like too much of something gives the effect of less of it in the body. That is a principle. Too much is the same as not enough. So that I will say that I've seen women that they're like, yeah, well, my hot flashes went away, but I'm gaining all this weight and I have all these other issues. I don't want to keep taking this estrogen. And then that's where they come into us, and we can offer the more natural approach, the natural methodology approach.
Brilliant. I could learn all day. This is amazing. Now, let me ask you, how did BeBalanced start? What got you on this mission of hormones? Because you've been such a pioneer for 30 years, which is insane. You were a child when you started. But you know what? It was so taboo to talk about it. And I feel like now it's just everyone's talking about it. And you've been leading this for so long. But what got you to start talking about hormones?
Well, it's funny when I think back, this is not really what did it, but when I was a young girl, I had such bad cramps that I literally had to go home from school. So that is a hormone imbalance. I went through the puberty gates with an imbalance. And you say, well, what would make a young girl have an imbalance? Because a young girl doesn't have taxes. She doesn't have a husband. She doesn't have any, like, what's a young girl? But it could be anything from childhood. Like my dad died when I was 9. So that's still kind of messy. You know, I think I was 11 or 12 when I got my period. And then I had a lot of mercury in my teeth because I had fillings. That's a hormone disruptor. There can be physiological things that throw our hormones off, that stress our body and drain our progesterone and raise our cortisol. So I had those problems. Then as I got a little older, I didn't have all the red acne, I will say that, but I had like these cystic lumps that you push over. It felt like a bruise on my back. So I would have acne, and then I would retain some fluid in my stomach and my ankles and just feel like I wasn't like heavy. But then as I got in my 20s and 30s, then I started gaining some weight. So I just was in the fitness field. I was back with Joe Weider with the 80s lifting weights, me and my brother. And so I loved, and then the 80s, all the health clubs came out. So
Right.
I basically knew I wanted to help women like lose weight and be in shape. But I thought, well, I just don't want to get paid $5 an hour working at a health club. I want to go to college. And that was the rate back then, $5 or $6 an hour. So
Wow.
that
Okay.
shows you how old I am. So I thought, well, so I went to college and I took health and physical education on teaching. So I could get all the anatomy and physiology and then take a minor in business in case I need that, and then a minor in nutrition. There was no complementary medicine. There was no alternative medicine back then. My guidance counselor was like, she's crazy. What does she even do? I'm piecing stuff together. I made my own internship, which I will say this, corporate fitness and wellness started to get bigger. So I wrote a report, corporate fitness, it's starting to make sense, and spelled a CENTS. So I was pioneering that. So then as I got a little bit older and got very much into weight loss and wellness, just very traditional, then I started seeing, I worked at a massive health club with 5,000 people. I was in charge of the weight loss and the personal training, and built that up. But women like over 35, over 40, over 50 weren't able to lose weight. And I had a great weight loss program there. And that's when I delved into the hormones. And that's when I met my former business partner, who was a clinical nutritionist and a chemist. And they're like, we're into hormones for PMS and menopause, but if you want to take hormones and match it with weight loss, that'll be big. They're like, we're from California. I mean, this is years and years and years. This is like the late 90s. We're from California. And if you start doing stuff like that, that is groundbreaking, because we don't even have that in California, like hormones and weight. So I was interested in hormones from the weight loss aspect of it. But obviously I must have had an imbalance, because I got really bad cramps and my acne got better as I got older, but I had these skin issues. So I think I had a little bit of PCOS, a degree of that. I didn't know back then. So I delved into hormones for that reason. And then I started working with the chemist. They had developed hormone creams that were made while doing testing. And I said, well, isn't that how products are made? They're like, no, most people just throw products together, unless they're a big pharmaceutical company, and they just make them in their garage, or they just make them. And then they're like, well, this ingredient has testing and this ingredient, so we'll just put it together, saying that these two ingredients have been proven to work. But we don't know if this product works. Whereas ours, we actually did testing while we made. That's why when I said to you, we put the cream on, the women's progesterone went up and then our estrogen went up. It's because it came out of the system, and we've had thousands of tests that way. So we use hormones in the form of a cream, because they bypass the digestive system and go right in through the veins. And then you don't have to worry about the pill, a hormone pill, get messed up in the digestive system. So we can talk about more about the creams later, but that's what got me into it. And then when we started balancing the hormones with natural creams with a good diet and exercise, then the women started to be able to lose weight. Then before we started franchising, I developed a more intense methodology that used a, I don't want to get too deep into it now, but used a homeopathic that would balance the hormones from the hypothalamus and the pituitary all the way down to the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, paired that with a diet, relaxation therapy, and a couple other things. And that's our full BeBalanced program. And you know this, women will lose. We did thousands and thousands and thousands of women. They went into our database, and our average was 18 pounds, but we say 15 to 20 pounds in a month. And I'm sorry, but that's way faster than the GLP-1. So I don't know, we just did an interview with a woman. She goes, I lost 20 pounds on the shot in 7 months. And then I got sick of it. I had side effects. And then I came to BeBalanced, and I lost 20 pounds in 6 weeks. And with us, the big thing is, and we can talk about this later, I don't want to jump ahead too much, but with us, you're losing fat. You don't want to lose muscle. So anyway, we can put that aside for a minute. But then I developed the whole, so we have a weight loss program, that stress management, diet, hormone balancing supplements, homeopathic. And then when you're done that, we have our natural hormone balancing creams, and we can go into that a little. They'll maintain. Or if you're a young girl, you don't need to lose weight, or an older woman don't need to lose weight, you can just do the natural hormone balancing creams. So that's what my methodology is. And the creams are natural progesterone, get that up, but also giving the body some free hormones, pregnenolone, DHEA, and then maca, which is a adaptogen herb. Like, think of it, ashwagandha, ginseng. Our chemist chose maca because there's a lot of research on it. And that's all in there. That helps your stress response. So we're getting your cortisol down, relaxing your adrenal gland, allowing that progesterone to fill up your bucket and balance with estrogen. If you're an older woman, the body will then make enough estrogen in the tissues and release it to balance with estrogen, because your body knows better than you. Your body, God, the universe knows better than you, me, or your doctor, and it'll balance that naturally. But when you shove in a bunch of estrogen or testosterone, and we can touch on testosterone later, but our women definitely get their sex drive back, and they definitely have lubrication. They don't have to worry about any of that without even taking testosterone. So all of that balances. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. I have my own issues. And so then I ended up in my late 30s and 40s, I was developing this, I like was gaining weight. And so I ended up losing, I can't even believe I gained this much, but I mean, I carried it well, but I lost 35 in 7 weeks when I developed my full methodology. And like I said, our average is 15 to 20 in a month. And it's just amazing.
But with Ozempic and all of them, I'm not knocking them, but compared to what we do with BeBalanced, we're taking your visceral fat. And then just women come in and they're like, I want to kill my husband. I'm going to blow up a building. And I'm just like, give us at least 2 weeks, just to begin and feel. Some people feel it in 3 days. Every body is different, but it really is the inside out job. And we don't build muscle like we used to. So I'm watching all these women that are gaunt, hangy skin, not feeling good, nauseous, and they're not losing the weight like they do with fueling themselves up for the journey, whether they're going into menopause, whether they're in menopause. It's incredible to me how much people don't know.
Well, but the thing is, too, we don't even know the long-term ramifications. And again, I'm not knocking the shots either. There are morbidly obese people. There's people that need it for diabetes. I'm not knocking it. But what I'm saying is we got to remember you have muscle in your face. There's no amount of filler that's going to fill that up. You're going to look older. So aren't you losing weight to look good? I mean, I hate to say it, but that's what a lot of people are doing. That's why they've gone to these extreme measures. Now you have the Ozempic face, or you have that. That's a nickname that somebody made up. But your heart is also muscle. So I read an article about that. I'm like, oh my, it was research saying that the heart is, and then you say, oh, I'll just, lift weights. It's very, very hard. Here's what I figured out. I believe that the weight loss shots, from my background and all my research, the weight loss shots are most likely slowing down your metabolism because they slow down the peristaltic action of food going through. They slow down everything. But what they do is they keep you, I've heard the word food noise a couple times, and I never really heard that before, but in relation to this, Dawn, it stops the food noise. And so it makes you not think about food at all. And I was like, okay, so that'll keep me from eating, right? So what happens is one lady was saying, she goes, it made me so not think of food. I couldn't even cook for my family. I couldn't even think like, are we having a vegetable and meat? She goes, it was the weirdest thing. She goes, so I really had to work on doing that because they have to eat. And then I would just go by and eat a couple chips and a little piece of pork or something. So what I think is happening, the reason you're losing the muscle on one level, I'm not saying I know everything about the weight loss shots, is because you're not eating and you're starving yourself. Now you say, okay, and I literally just thought about this the other night, but wait a minute, what about people that fast? Let's just say fasting's a thing that works, because when you fast, you don't even lose as much muscle because your body goes into ketosis. It's like, all right, this person must be in the wilderness. She's not eating. It will take some of your structural fat, a little bit of muscle, just a little to start. But then it becomes fat adapted and you start to shrink. And I've seen people do it. That's not the best way to do it. A lot of times women can't do it that way because the hormones will keep them from getting into ketogenic state. That's why they need us. So, but let's just say for a man, he'll become fat adapted. But if you take the shot, you still have to eat a little bit, right? You're still a little bit hungry. So what are you eating? Crap, most likely. And your body can't get into ketosis. So it's actually starving itself because it's living on a teeny bit of food, but it doesn't have the ability to go in and get the fat stores because it's not fully fat adapted. It would always be better to do a full blown fast and you will lose less fat than you will with the weight loss shots. That's what I believe from understanding the physiology of what's happening. There could be other things happening too. So it's just really not. And I don't know why they're saying it's fast. It's faster than nothing. I mean, 20 pounds and 7, is that fast? I mean, maybe if you can't lose weight at all, I guess it's fast.
Not really.
That.
And then you feel like crap, and then you lose all your muscle, and then you just gain the weight right back, and then it's fat on top of fat, and we don't make muscle like we used to, right?
Your ratio is going to be. Well, I did have a kind of a friend. I haven't seen her in a while, but she is pretty obese, and she used the shots, and she said it did help me lose some weight. It was slow, but then it got taken away for some reason, her insurance, whatever. I forget the whole story. But she goes, so I gained it back. I go, but wait a minute, devil's advocate. What if I lost weight on the shots? And maybe I lose some muscle, fine, but I lost weight. And then I decide I'm going to stop them, but I'm going to be really smart. And I'm going to try to lift weights and I'm going to try to eat good. I'm going to be, because I want to maintain this. She goes, Dawn, I know what to do, but I couldn't do it. She goes, the food noise came back. And it was so much, I was ravenously hungry. I couldn't, and I know what that's like when your blood sugar can be off. Once in a while I have that. You become so hungry, you'll do anything to stop it. That's why you gain the weight back. And I was like, well, I didn't really know that. Now, I'm not saying that's everybody's experience, but that's part of the, and then you're right, your fat to muscle ratio is off. Your metabolism is off. And muscle is the biggest thing we can do to slow aging. I just heard a big anti-aging doctor say, preserve muscle. What are we doing? We're breaking it down. with that drug. So it's just not a good idea.
Oh my gosh, I could talk to you for 12 hours. So let me ask you this with, you know a lot about the psychological, component of weight loss and the food noise. I noticed, and you tell me, and what I want to tell our listeners is when I brought the progesterone in, my cortisol went down and that food noise really went away. Like I wasn't focused on being, craving sugars and needing everything and obsessed with food. Like before I did the program, because there's 5 phases to the program. The first 2 is, the clean out portion, and then you add foods back in phase 3, 4, and 5, right? But the first 2 days before I started the program, because I've been on every diet, I was a dumpster truck, Dawn. Like I was eating everything in sight. But then after I did the program, I was more like, that doesn't work for me anymore, as opposed to I can never have that again. Right. And so do you notice, what do you think the noise is for people? Do you think, like for me, the progesterone helped the noise?
Yeah. So basically, because the GLP-1s are definitely stopping the noise. I'm not going to debate that at all. They are. But then I thought, well, progesterone does the same thing, because if you don't have enough progesterone, which is calming and it relaxes your blood sugar, you feel hangry, right? That's one example. Like I just want, let's say I'm out with my girlfriend and my hair looks good. I'm buying stuff. I'm off of work. I'm in the best mood ever. And we sit down at a restaurant and we're like, oh, what are we going to get? And all of a sudden, like the waitress is busy, so she's taking a while. Now I'm getting mad. I'm the day off of work. My hair looks good. I'm getting ready to eat with my girl because I'm getting hangry, right? I think Sports Illustrated always had on their bathing suit cup. They always had these funny little advertisements. They talk about hangry. I think it's Snickers. Now, is Snickers a solution to being hangry? I don't know. There's a lot of sugar in it, but it's got some nuts. So hangry, I need protein. I need fiber. I need fat. I need something because my blood sugar is down. So I think that is, people understand that. So what progesterone does is it stabilizes blood sugar. And then I just feel calmer. So if I feel calm, I'm going to eat less. But remember what we said about estrogen. If I don't have enough progesterone, estrogen's running around my body, stimulating you had a bunch of teenagers running around your body, running around your house. Is your house calm? No. But you bring progesterone in, it calms the house down. So once we bring that progesterone in, it calms down the blood sugar, and then I don't have that strong. Also, not only do I not have the strong cravings, but progesterone increases GABA, which is another, we always talk about serotonin and dopamine, we've heard about them, but GABA is like what's in it. It's like a natural Xanax, a natural benzodiazepam. Xanax is a brand name of that, which they can be addicting, but they work, man. They'll calm you down. So GABA is like a natural Xanax, so it calms us down, and that will stop food noise as well, because food noise is like, I'm really upset. I just want to eat something to ground me, and then we eat something and we do feel better. So this stops that. So once you do our program, you're on the progesterone while you're on the diet. So you're like, yeah, I see cake, but I don't want it as much as I normally would. Because most of us feel that PMS, like right before we have our period, we could kill somebody for a piece of cake. But then after the period, we're like, oh, I feel better. I like cake. But well, guess what? Menopausal women, they're like PMS women all month long because they're in that imbalanced state. So they're eating cake all day long. That's why they gain weight. Young girls just want the cake maybe right around their cycle. So that's where when we balance the hormones and we keep you on a natural hormone balancing cream, which is almost like a vitamin for your hormone, multivitamin for it keeps your progesterone where it should be. And therefore, you don't have those strong cravings. And that's how you can maintain your weight and prevent pre-diabetes, diabetes, all that stuff. Because blood sugar imbalances, not only will they cause you to gain weight, they'll cause you to become insulin resistant over time, pre-diabetic, diabetic. And then you will need Ozempic, right? You know what I mean? So we don't want that. So hopefully, does that make sense? Like that's what.
So much sense. Yeah. It's so much. That's why I'm so excited for you to talk about BeBalanced and all your knowledge with this, because I feel like, why wouldn't anybody want to do this? I just see people going off the radar, and I don't understand why people will trust doctors. Like they have a degree, but they're not specialists, but they just want to fight me sometimes and just say, oh, well, I don't need it. And then they usually come back on and they're like, okay, I'll do anything it takes. I should have most husbands bringing me flowers from your program,
Right. Well, I started to think, why are so many women doing these weight loss shots? But then I realized, you and I know that when women hit about 50 million women at this point right now in our country are in menopause, right? Menopause means we stopped ovulating, right? That's what it means. Guess where progesterone comes from naturally? When you ovulate. So that's why women over, past the menopause years, they're not ovulating, they're not producing that progesterone, and then their adrenal glands are supposed to be a little bit of a backup. That's why women in Europe, they're like on their scooters, chow, they're drinking their lattes, and they're happy. Well, why? Because their adrenal glands aren't burnt out. So when they stop ovulating, they go through menopause too. They're like, woo, we don't have a period, we can have sex, this is great. But they have adrenal progesterone that comes out. In our country, most people's adrenal glands are fried. So we don't have that. So when we're through menopause, we're like done with progesterone and it's down and the body can still make estrogen. And that's where you're kind of estrogen dominant. And that's the whole issue of how we differ from like people in other countries. And we need that balance. So what's happening is there's so many women out there, 50 million women that are like, I can't lose weight. So that's why BeBalanced is born. But if they don't know about BeBalanced, we're still small. They're like, I'm going to do anything. I'm going to grab one of those shots. So that's why I'm like, why are the shots so big? Because it's true. Women over a certain age, we see it every day. They can't lose weight. They don't know about BeBalanced. They go for the shots. So you're doing something good, like getting the word out on natural hormone balancing, just the methodology that I use. And whether they come to BeBalanced or not, BeBalanced is an easy way for them to put that in action. But yeah, like you're getting that word. They don't know about us. So we're limited by our exposure. So that's why podcasts and things like that just help women understand better, and then they can make more informed decisions.
Well, everybody's got to get out there, and I'm going to put links because you have centers all over the country. And also, if you find somebody that you really love, to work with, we could do it virtually. Like I've had tons of clients do it virtually. We send product and it's amazing. And also our product doesn't tell everybody, our product doesn't come from China. Like it doesn't come from it's made here in the US, correct?
Yeah, we have our chemist is moved his lab. He was in California. Now he's in Ponderosa, Arizona. And I was like, Ponderosa, like the steakhouse? He's like, Dawn, it's a tree, like before it was a steak. I guess it's, so I went out there. They're like fir trees, but they're Ponderosa trees. So it's called Ponderosa Lab. So we have our own chemist. I mean, we're pretty lucky to have that, making the products, and we just love it. We do have some private label products that are just like multivitamins and things. So we offer a full array, but everything that you get through us is third party tested. It's FDA approved for the making of it. So that here's the problem with supplements, even magnesium or things. I believe everybody needs magnesium. Is that there's things in there, could be in there, preservatives, chemicals that aren't on the label because the FDA doesn't approve supplements, right? And then there's things that it says on label, 50 milligrams of vitamin B, but it might not be in there because no one tested it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we don't really know a lot of times what's really in our supplements. And that's where it BeBalanced. You could come in, get candid answers to your female questions, even about sexuality, about your teenage daughter, any of that. And then you know that our products are pure and good and tested. And we have thousands upon thousands of women. I mean, you can go on any Facebook page of any of the 25 centers, and it's just ridiculous. Streams of women. Not only have they lost weight and they look good, their skin looks good, they get that glow. They also have a cessation of no more hot flashes, no more headaches, no more thyroid problems. We can get women, well, we don't take women off medicine. The doctor does that, but we get their thyroid balance. A lot of times their medication goes down so low because here's the issue about thyroid. Thyroid issues don't cause weight gain. It's thyroid problems are a result of imbalance in sex hormones that we just talked about. That's what causes the weight gain. And if you stay like that too long, too many teenagers in the house, not enough parents, eventually, if you're genetically predisposed for it, you'll get a thyroid problem. Hyper, then hypo. So the cool thing is, if we can, genetics play a part to an extent. I hate it like, oh, you're doomed because your mom had this and your grandma. No, your mom and your grandmother both have a proclivity for thyroid problems, and so will you. But we can fix it, and we fix the hormones, you won't get it. So I don't like using genetics as a way to be like, there's no hope, you're screwed. No, that's not the case. So if I have 20 women in a room and they all have estrogen dominance, so they all have PMS, right? But one gets really, really bad migraines. Another one starts to affect her thyroid. Another one gets really heavy flow. Another one has endometriosis. That's all their genetic proclivities to get those things or tendencies because they're all different. But the hormonal balance is the same. So if we can fix the imbalance, they won't have the PMS and they won't have these other really, more serious conditions that are related to their hormone imbalance.
You are incredible. I can't wait for everybody to listen to this and then have you back on because I know there's going to be a million more questions, but I really feel like, just the basics of, how to reset, hormone health and progesterone and BeBalanced centers. I think that was really knowledgeable. I've learned so much from you. I can't even tell you. It's amazing.
Well, like I said, it's what I've kind of dedicated my life to. And really, you could almost tie anything to hormones because hormones affect the physiology and the psychology. So if I have trauma, that's affecting my hormones. If there's chemicals in my water, that's affecting my hormones. If I'm out in the extreme cold or heat to work or exercise, or if I'm over exercising, that's a stress to the body. So it's more about managing our stress because there's a wedding. My friend's getting married. I'm helping her plan it. That's a good stress, but it is still a stress. And I think the key for women is to be educated, but also to be protective of themselves because a lot of times the women that I'm talking to, some of them are older and their kids are gone. I understand that, but they still have a husband or whatever, and grandkids coming up. Be protective of your time. Have a little bit of time every day. I don't care if it's 20 minutes. They're like, mommy time, everybody shut the door, or whatever. And that's what we do with BeBalanced. We give you relaxation music with sound waves that take your brain waves to a, like you're almost like Calgon, Take Me Away. You're in that, that shows my age too, right? I'm in Calgon drinking my Tang, right? They're the two things that say like, this woman is really up there in age.
You're
But anyway,
amazing.
just take that time for a bubble bath, get your nails done. But even just having that time of a brain reset. And with BeBalanced, we give relaxing music, we give aromatherapy and eye pillow, and you just feel like you're floating. And then when you come back out, that's not selfish. You're a better mom, you're a better wife, you're a better coworker if you don't take care of yourself. That is when you're doing a disservice to your husband, to your children, to your community, to your church, to whoever you're involved with, because you're going to be a little bitchy. You're going to be. So I know women are like, well, I'm sacrificing for my child. You know what? Kids are so intuitive. They can pick up on energy. So if you're like, hi, Johnny, let's go to the store. Let's do that. And you're kind of being Stepford and fake about it, but you really wish you could just have a break and let Johnny play with his game for a couple of minutes, but you don't do it because you want to be involved every second. Johnny can somehow pick up on your energy and it's going to affect him. So you might as well just say, I'm going to play with Johnny in the afternoon, put him for a little nap or let him play with his, little game there in the crib. And then I'm going to take a little rest or I'm going to do my nails. Where it's very, very, very important. That's why they say, put your oxygen mask on. I was like, what? Of course. Because guess what? If the plane's going down and I don't get my and my kid's got his oxygen and I'm like this, like if we have a lunar landing, I don't think the kid's gonna be waking me up. Just you understand? I mean, that's a rule on a plane. Take care of yourself. And I truly believe it. And I work really hard, but I don't have kids. People are like, oh, you look great. You're this. I'm like, yeah, I don't have kids and a husband. How's that? And they're like, oh, we get it. I don't even have a boyfriend right now, but I do love being in a relationship. So I like both. But I'm saying like, so I work hard, but I also play hard. So I will go home and I have a swing in my living room. I got a pole. I hula hoop. I think we also lost our inner child, and our inner child is let's play and let's have fun. I was at an 80s party the other night. We're all dressed up. Halloween, people like to dress up. I just wish women, especially men, might be able to do it. They're involved with sports and we're drinking a beer. Women just don't. They don't connect with their inner child as much. And I just think we need to do that self-nurturing, and that's going to help take care of your hormones. So that's part of our message at BeBalanced as well. So I wanted to at least get that out too. So
I love that. It's so true. You can't be like, oh, the martyr all the time. You have to take
yes,
care of you. Yeah. And then, we'll talk another time, but yeah, men join this program as well with their wives. And, and I tell women, I'm like, really, you have to have a good partner to support you. And if they don't, like, you have to find ways that you can do it, to support yourself because
and I think most men usually are. Like when men show up in our office for like with their wives for the first time, I just make a joke because it's like, you see him in the lobby and you don't know as the man, like how much money is she going to spend. So I go, oh, I love when men come. I said, they're either supportive or suspicious. I said, we'll take either one, but come on in. And it is great. So let's say this as a teaser. We can talk later about hormones and sexuality, hormones and relationships, hormones and polarity. But we can also say that we have some good stuff for men and we can preserve men's testosterone without TRT because there's issues with that. So we can teaser that for later on for another discussion.
I love that. Oh, Dawn. Okay. Is there anything else? Because you're amazing. And we're going to put a pin in all the other, we're going to have you come back. But I also, because of your inner child, if you don't mind, tell us where we find you on Instagram, because we need to see your.
Okay, so I've been on Facebook for a long time. So can I get you all my handles? Because I don't have them all that. But I have a
All
girl
under
that
there.
helps me. I do a lot of content. And I do every month, I'll do like videos on, I'll do crystal of the month, I'll do, herb of the month. So I do a lot of lifestyle branding type things, but also do a lot of stuff. It's diabetes month. I'll explain how diabetes is affected by your hormones are affecting diabetes, that type of thing. But I would say for right now, BeBalancedCenters.com,
Okay.
BeBalancedCenters with an S.com. People can go there, read more about us. They can get a free consultation. They can fill out a hormone assessment. Are your hormones holding you back? Most likely they are. Unless you're zen and you have a perfect life and you're slender and you're swinging from the chandeliers, unless you have all that going on, you probably could improve your mood or your sleep or your weight or your health. And that's where hormones come in.
Yeah, absolutely. So can people follow you too by hormone_specialist_Dawn? I'll put that
Yes.
under.
Yes,
Okay.
because I have a YouTube channel. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram.
I
I
love
didn't use those platforms as much. So I'll get you all that. You can put them there. I'd love to have followers because I do a lot of really good content. So that would be
Oh,
great.
you are so fun. You're Christmas. You dress up. You just watching you look free and like you were talking about with your inner child. It makes me just be giddy and just talking to you. But I can't thank you. You're so incredible to me. And when I started Saucy Not Bossy, all these women are like, I'm a boss bitch. I'm a badass. And I'm like, nobody wants a boss. Nobody wants a partner that's bossy. Nobody
Yeah.
wants a health specialist that's bossing them around. Nobody wants a CEO that's a boss, but you with your extra sauce and just who you are. It's just
Tomato
thank you.
sauce. I have tomato sauce. That's what
You're so. Can you make a good sauce? By
Italian.
the way? Are you a good?
No, I never cooked. I
No.
cook in the bedroom. That's a whole nother topic. I'm not a cook in the kitchen. But no, I'm just saying because I'm Italian, I'm saucy, I'm tomato saucy. But I do like
Are.
tomatoes.
And I can't wait to talk because most people it's so taboo. Again, talking about sex and the dry vagina and all of that. So the next time you come on, I would love to have that topic and talk about that. And like what people say to me, it's like they're so repressed sometimes with their own sexuality. Then they get into menopause, they don't even know what to do. They cut off all their hair and then they become very masculine. And I'm like, no, let's embrace our sauce, our sexuality. So
Yes,
that'll be our next topic, but
definitely.
I can't thank you enough for this, and I will put
I
all
loved
the
it.
links. Oh
I
my gosh.
thank you so much. I enjoyed being here and I'm excited to come back.
Well, I'm just so excited for people to learn more about Be Balanced and everything that you've built. A 17-year proven science, right? You
Yeah.
started this and it's incredible. And then I'll also put links to the Be Balanced center pages of the before and afters and just testimonials
Yes.
and
Yes.
just amazing. Thank you, Dawn. You are the
Yes.
best. And then we'll catch up soon.
All right. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste, my guru. Bye, honey.